The transmission came through broken and full of static. Someone was crying on the other end. Someone was begging. David Holt leaned forward in his chair and watched the screen flicker to life. The face that appeared was not human. She had pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Her species called themselves the Sorati, and right now, this one looked like she had already accepted death. "This message goes to all ships in range," she said. Her voice shook badly. "I am Ambassador Kellen of the Sorati Diplomatic Corps. Our world has fallen. Do not come here. I repeat, do not come here." The bridge of the Resolute Dawn went completely silent. The ship was a humanitarian vessel, built for rescue operations and medical emergencies. They had picked up the signal 3 hours ago and changed course immediately. Dr. Amara Singh stood beside the captain's chair. "What happened to them?" The recording continued as if answering her question. "The creatures came from deep space," Kellen said on screen. "We call them the Hollow. They are parasites. They burrow into living hosts and use their bodies to spread. Within hours, the infected become violent. They attack everything. Everyone." She paused to wipe her eyes. "The Galactic Council has abandoned us. They say containment is the only option. They will let us die so the infection does not spread." Sergeant Leo Briggs, the security chief, crossed his arms. He was a large man with scars on his hands from wars most people had forgotten. "How bad is it down there?" The recording showed Kellen looking off screen at something they could not see. When she turned back, her expression had changed. It was no longer just fear. It was acceptance. "The surface is lost," she said quietly. "Billions are already dead or infected. The hollow nests grow larger every day. If you come here, you will die. Your ships will become tombs. Your crews will become hosts." She leaned closer to the camera. "I am begging you. Show mercy. Stay away. Let us die in peace. There is nothing left to save." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The Resolute Dawn drifted through the darkness of space while her crew processed what they had just seen. Engineer Nadia Okonkwo was the first to break the silence. "The Council really abandoned them? Just like that?" "Standard containment protocol," Briggs said. His voice was flat, but his jaw was tight with anger. "Quarantine the infected zone. Wait for everything inside to die. Move on." Dr. Singh shook her head slowly. "There are still life signs. I checked the long-range sensors. Millions of them. They are still fighting down there." Captain Holt stood up from his chair. He walked to the main viewport and stared out at the stars. Somewhere ahead, hidden by the vast distance, an entire species was dying. They had begged for help. When help never came, they begged everyone to stay away instead. He turned back to face his crew. "I'm not going to order anyone to do this. This is a volunteer mission, or it is nothing at all. The Council has already written these people off. We have no backup, no support. If we go in there, we might not come out." Nobody moved. "So I am asking," Holt continued, "do we turn around? Do we follow the rules and let an entire species die because someone decided they were not worth saving?" Briggs uncrossed his arms. "I did not sign up for this ship to watch people die from a safe distance." Dr. Singh nodded. "There are children down there. Families. I cannot just leave them." Nadia looked at her console, then back at the captain. "The engines are ready whenever you are, sir." One by one, every member of the bridge crew gave their answer. Not one of them voted to turn back. Holt allowed himself a small smile. It was not a happy expression. It was the look of a man who knew exactly what he was walking into and had decided to walk anyway. "Set course for the Sorati system," he said. "Maximum speed." The Resolute Dawn turned toward the dying world. Behind them, the safe emptiness of space stretched on forever. Ahead, something terrible was waiting. Somewhere on that broken planet, Ambassador Kellen would soon receive a message. She would learn that a human ship had ignored her warnings. She would beg them again to turn back. She would tell them that mercy was pointless. She did not understand. The humans were not bringing mercy. Mercy was for the innocent, for the victims, for the survivors who needed gentle hands and soft words. What the humans were bringing was something else entirely. The Hollow had never met anything like it before. Neither had the galaxy, and by the time anyone understood what was coming, it would already be too late to stop it. The first thing they saw when they dropped out of hyperspace was a graveyard. Ships floated everywhere. Dozens of them. Some were Council patrol vessels with their lights dark and their hulls torn open. Others were civilian transports that had tried to flee and never made it. All of them drifted in silence, spinning slowly through the void like leaves on dead water. Nadia Okonkwo stared at her sensor display. No life signs on any of them. They have been dead for weeks. Dr. Singh moved to another console and began pulling data from the wrecked ships. These are the vessels the Council sent to establish quarantine. They were supposed to keep everyone in, not fight the infection. Something fought them anyway, Briggs said. He pointed at the closest wreck. Massive claw marks ran along the hull. The metal had been peeled back like skin. The hollow got to them before they could even set up a perimeter. Captain Holt watched the graveyard pass by through the main viewport. Each dark ship was a tomb now. Each one held crews who had died far from home, abandoned by the very government that sent them. What do we know about these creatures? He asked the doctor. Singh pulled up her research on the main screen. The images were disturbing. The hollow were thin, spider-like things with too many legs and mouths that seemed too large for their bodies. They moved fast, and they killed faster. They spread through biological contact, Singh explained. Once they inject eggs into a host, the victim has maybe 6 hours before the parasites take over their nervous system. After that, they become aggressive carriers. They attack anyone nearby and try to spread the infection further. Briggs studied the images with cold eyes. Can the infected be saved? In the early stages, maybe. Once the parasites reach the brain, no. The host is gone. The resolute Dawn moved past the graveyard and approached the planet itself. From orbit, the Sarati homeworld looked sick. Massive dark patches spread across the continents like bruises on pale skin. Cities that once held millions were now silent and still, but the sensors told a different story. Life signs confirmed, Nadia reported. Scattered across multiple regions. Some clusters are in the thousands. They are holding out in fortified positions. Holt nodded slowly. They are still fighting. The communication system crackled to life. Ambassador Kellen appeared on screen again. This time, she was not recording a message. She was speaking directly to them. Human vessel, this is Ambassador Kellen. Her voice was sharp with disbelief. Why are you here? Did you not receive my warning? We received it, Holt replied calmly. Then why did you come? The Council has already declared us a containment zone. No one is supposed to enter. Holt leaned forward in his chair. Ambassador, the Council is not here. We are. And we did not come all this way to watch from orbit. Kellen stared at him through the screen. Her 4 eyes blinked in confusion. You do not understand. The surface is lost. The hollow control almost everything. If you send people down there, they will be killed or infected. Are there still survivors? Yes, but are there children among them? Kellen went silent. She looked away from the camera. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. It was smaller now, more broken. There are children, she admitted. In the shelters, in the underground bunkers. We have been trying to protect them, but we are running out of food, running out of medicine, running out of time. Dr. Singh stepped forward so Kellen could see her. Ambassador, I am a doctor. I specialize in xenobiology. If there is even a chance that early-stage infections can be treated, I need to try. You would risk your life for people you have never met. Singh did not hesitate. That is why I became a doctor. Kellen looked at each of the human faces on her screen. She had sent her warning across the stars, begging everyone to stay away. The Council had listened. Other species had listened. Everyone had agreed that the Sarati were not worth the risk. Everyone except these strange creatures from a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Captain Holt gave her a sad smile. Because you asked us not to. Kellen did not understand. She could not understand. But as the resolute Dawn began its descent toward the ravaged surface, she felt something she had not felt in weeks, hope that IT was a small and fragile thing. It made no sense given everything that had happened. But it was there, burning quietly in her chest like the last ember of a dying fire. The galaxy had written their death notice. Humanity had not bothered to read it. The city had no name anymore. Names belonged to living places, and this place had died weeks ago. Sergeant Leo Briggs stepped off the shuttle and into ash. It covered everything. The streets, the buildings, the bodies that lay scattered like broken dolls. The air smelled like fire and something worse. Something rotting. His team spread out in a defensive formation. 12 soldiers, all volunteers, all armed with weapons designed to kill things that did not die easily. Behind them, Dr. Singh directed her medical staff in setting up a portable treatment station. Contact, 200 meters west. One of the soldiers reported through the communication link. Briggs raised his weapon and looked. Something was moving in the ruins of a collapsed building. Several somethings. They were thin and wrong, with legs that bent in too many places and heads that twitched back and forth like broken machines. The hollow. Hold fire until they get closer, Briggs ordered. We need to conserve ammunition. The creatures did not wait. They charged the moment they sensed living prey. They moved faster than anything that size should be able to move, skittering across the rubble like nightmares given form. Now, Briggs said .12 weapons opened fire at once. The sound was deafening. The first wave of hollow creatures exploded into pieces before they got within 50 meters. A second wave came, then a third. The soldiers did not stop. They did not retreat. They stood their ground and turned every attacking creature into scattered remains. When the gunfire finally stopped, the street was littered with hollow corpses. Singh stepped forward and examined one of the bodies. They are not smart, just fast and aggressive. If we can hold defensive positions, we can manage the waves. The question is for how long, Briggs replied. He looked toward the deeper parts of the city. Somewhere in there, survivors were waiting. Let us move. They found the shelter an hour later. It was built into the basement of what had once been a school. The entrance was blocked by wreckage that had been carefully arranged to form a barricade. Sarati faces peered through the gaps, watching the approaching humans with terror and confusion. An elderly Sarati male pushed through the barricade. His skin was pale gray, marked with age. His robes were torn and stained with blood that was not his own. He held a makeshift weapon in his shaking hands. Stay back, he warned. We do not want your help. We do not want to be infected. Briggs lowered his weapon and held up his empty hands. We are not infected. We came from outside the quarantine zone. Impossible. The council sealed all routes in and out. The council is not here, Singh said gently. She stepped forward, showing the Sarati her medical bag. We are humans. We came to help. The elderly Sarati stared at her. His name was Elder Tovan, and he had led his people through impossible weeks of survival. He had watched friends die, children vanish, and hope fade into nothing. He had prayed to gods who did not answer and sent messages to a galaxy that did not care. Now strangers from a species he had never met were standing in the ruins of his world, offering help that made no sense. Why, he asked. The same question Kellen had asked. The same question every Sarati would ask. Briggs answered honestly. Because someone needs to. Tovan lowered his weapon slowly. Behind him, the barricade opened. Dozens of Sarati emerged from the darkness. Most were elderly. Some were very young. All of them looked at the humans with expressions that mixed fear with something that might have been hope. Singh went to work immediately. She scanned each survivor, checking for early-stage infections. She found 3. The parasites had not reached their brains yet. There was still time. I can save them, she told Tovan. But the treatment will hurt. I need your permission to try. Tovan looked at the infected Sarati. One of them was a young female barely older than a child. Her eyes were still clear. She was still herself. In a few more hours, she would be gone. Do it, he said. The screaming started minutes later. The treatment was brutal. Toxins designed to kill the parasites also caused tremendous pain. The young female thrashed and cried and begged for it to stop. Singh held her down and kept working. Outside, the hollow came again. Briggs and his team met them with fire and fury. The creatures fell in waves, but more kept coming. One soldier took a hit to the shoulder. He did not retreat. He switched his weapon to his other hand and kept firing. Tovan watched from the barricade. He had seen many things in his long life. He had never seen anything like this. The humans fought like the creatures from old Sarati legends. Demons who felt no fear. Spirits who did not know how to surrender. They bled red blood and made sounds of pain when they were hurt, but they did not stop. They would not stop. For the first time in weeks, Tovan believed his people might survive. The shuttle returned at sunset. It carried the survivors up to the resolute dawn, leaving Briggs and his team behind to secure the area, in the medical bay. The young female opened her eyes. The parasites were dead. She was going to live. Singh sat beside her and smiled. You are safe now. We have you. The girl reached out and grabbed Singh's hand. She held on like someone clinging to the edge of a cliff. She did not let go for a very long time. 3 more ships arrived on the 5th day. They came out of hyperspace in formation, their hulls painted with the blue and white colors of human humanitarian services. The resolute Dawn was no longer alone. The steady hand, the open arms, and the last resort now orbited the dying world together. Not warships, not destroyers, medical frigates and rescue transports. Ambassador Kellen watched them take position from the observation deck of the resolute Dawn. She still could not believe what she was seeing. "Your government sent reinforcements," she said quietly. Captain Holt stood beside her. "No, these crews volunteered. When word spread about what was happening here, they came on their own. Without orders. Humans do not need orders to help people in trouble. We just need to know where to go." Kellen turned to look at him. Her 4 eyes studied his face like she was trying to understand a puzzle that made no sense. "The Council would never allow this. Resources must be allocated according to strategic value. Your ships, your supplies, your people, all of this is cost. What do you gain by spending it on us?" Holt thought about the question for a moment. "We gain the knowledge that we tried. That is enough." Below them, the planet was slowly changing. Human teams had secured 8 major survivor camps in the past 5 days. The Hollows still controlled most of the surface, but the humans were pushing back. Every day, more Serati were evacuated. Every day, more infections were treated. The treatment process had improved. Dr. Singh had refined her methods, and the survival rate for early-stage patients had climbed to nearly 90%. The screaming still happened. The pain was still terrible. But more survivors walked away than did not. On the surface, Sergeant Briggs led strike teams against hollow nesting sites. They used fire and chemical agents and pure overwhelming force. The creatures fought back savagely, but they could not adapt fast enough. Every nest destroyed was ground reclaimed. Every wave pushed back was hope restored. The young Serati girl who Singh had saved was given a name. Her family was gone, her records lost in the chaos. The other survivors chose to call her Sarah, which meant unexpected gift in the old Serati language. Sarah followed Dr. Singh everywhere. She watched the human doctor work with silent fascination. She helped where she could, carrying supplies and offering comfort to other patients. She rarely spoke, but her eyes said everything. One evening, Kellen found Holt in the ship's mess hall. He was eating alone, staring at nothing. She sat across from him without asking permission. "I need to understand something," she said. Holt looked up. "Go ahead. When I sent my warning, I told you to stay away. I said mercy was pointless. You came anyway. You fought. You bled. Your people have died here." She paused, struggling with the words. "Why? What is mercy to you?" Holt set down his fork. He was quiet for a long time before answering. "When you asked us to stay away, you had already given up. You had accepted that your people were going to die, that no one was coming, that you were alone." He looked at her steadily. "When someone stops asking for help, that is when they need it most. When someone begs you to let them die, that is when you fight hardest to save them." Kellen's eyes glistened. "That makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense. You were not asking us for mercy. You were asking us to make your death easier. To look away and pretend it was not happening." Holt shook his head. "We do not do that. We cannot do that. When someone is suffering, we come, even when they tell us not to. Especially when they tell us not to. And the Hollow? You show them no mercy at all." Holt's expression hardened. "Mercy is for victims. For survivors. For people who deserve gentle hands and second chances." His voice dropped lower. "The things that hurt those people, they deserve something else entirely." In the corridors of the ship, Sarah walked with Dr. Singh toward the medical bay. Another shuttle full of survivors had just arrived. There was work to do. "Dr. Singh," Sarah said quietly. It was one of the few times she had spoken. Singh looked down at her. "Yes. Will the humans stay? After the Hollow are gone?" Singh smiled and put a hand on the girl's shoulder. "We will stay as long as you need us. And when we leave, we will come back. That is what we do." Sarah nodded slowly. She did not fully understand humans yet. She was not sure anyone did. But she understood one thing clearly. They had come when no one else would. They had fought when no one else cared. They had shown her people that the galaxy was not as empty and cold as it seemed. Somewhere in the darkness, there were creatures who would not give up on you, even when you had given up on yourself. Something was wrong underground. Briggs noticed it first. The Hollow attacks had stopped being random. They were coordinated now, hitting multiple positions at the same time with perfect timing. Creatures that had always fought like mindless animals were suddenly working together like soldiers following orders. They are communicating, Nadia reported from the ship. I am detecting strange energy pulses from deep beneath the largest continent. It is like a heartbeat, but it is carrying information. Captain Holt studied the sensor data with growing concern. What does that mean? It means the Hollow are not just parasites. They have a central intelligence, a hive mind. Nadia pulled up a three-dimensional map of the underground tunnels. Deep beneath the surface, something massive was pulsing with life. They have a queen. The revelation changed everything. That night, every being in the system heard the same voice inside their heads. It was cold and ancient and utterly inhuman. It spoke directly into their minds without sound to leave or be consumed. Sarati survivors collapsed in terror. Human soldiers gripped their heads in pain. Even the crews orbiting above felt the psychic pressure like ice water flooding their thoughts. The queen was awake. She was angry, and she was done watching her children die. The next wave of attacks was devastating. Hollow creatures swarmed out of the ground in numbers that had never been seen before. They hit every secured position simultaneously. Defensive lines that had held for days crumbled in hours. 3 human soldiers died in the first assault. 7 more were wounded. A Sarati camp that had been evacuated just that morning was overrun and destroyed. The message from the Galactic Council arrived within hours, urging immediate withdrawal. Holt threw the message away without reading it twice. We do not retreat, he said at the emergency briefing. If we leave now, everything we have done means nothing. The survivors we rescued will be the last of their species. The Sarati will be gone forever. Then what do we do? Briggs asked. We cannot hold these positions against coordinated attacks forever. Elder Tovin stepped forward. He had been evacuated to the ship days ago, but he refused to stay in the medical bay. He insisted on being useful. The Queen controls everything, he said. Kill her, and the Hollow become mindless again. They will scatter. They will starve. He pointed at the map. I know these tunnels. Before the invasion, they were mining passages. I can guide you to her. Holt looked at the elderly Sarati. You want to go back down there? My people are dying. My world is burning. I am old, Captain. I have lived long enough. Let me do something that matters before I am gone. Briggs stood up. I will lead the ground team. Nadia, how much explosive do we have? Nadia checked her records. Enough to collapse a mountain if we place it right. Then we place it right. The assault began at dawn. Briggs led 20 soldiers into the tunnels with Elder Tovin guiding them. The darkness swallowed them whole. The deeper they went, the worse it got. Hollow creatures filled the passages. They came from every direction, from above and below, from cracks in the walls and holes in the floor. The team fought through them with fire and grenades and pure stubborn violence. Soldiers fell and did not get back up. The survivors kept moving. They lost 8 people before reaching the Queen's chamber. The chamber was vast, carved out of solid rock by millions of hollow workers over centuries. The Queen sat at the center, bloated and ancient, her body connected to thousands of dormant creatures through pulsing tendrils. She was the heart of the hive, the mother of all monsters. She screamed in their minds when she saw them. It was a sound of rage and terror combined. She had never been challenged before. She had never needed to be insects. You are nothing. You will all be consumed. Briggs ignored the voice. He planted the first charge against the chamber wall. Keep her busy. The remaining soldiers opened fire on the Queen. Their weapons tore into her flesh, but she was massive. She would not die easily. The dormant hollow around her began to wake. Elder Tovin moved through the chaos with surprising speed. He knew these tunnels. He knew where the weak points were. He planted charges in places the soldiers would never have found. One by one, the explosives clicked into place. One by one, the lights on their timers began to blink. Fall back, Briggs ordered. Everyone out. Now. They ran. The Queen's screams followed them through the tunnels, growing more desperate with every step. She knew what was coming. She could feel the explosives like wounds waiting to open. The team burst out of the tunnel entrance just as the timers hit 0. The ground shook. The entrance collapsed. Deep beneath the surface, fire consumed everything. The Queen screamed one final time, a psychic shriek that echoed across the entire planet. Then silence. Across the world, every hollow creature stopped moving at exactly the same moment. They stood frozen like statues. Then, one by one, they collapsed. Without the Queen's mind to guide them, they were nothing. Empty shells with no purpose. Briggs lay on the ground, covered in dust and blood, breathing hard. Elder Tovin sat beside him, laughing quietly through his exhaustion. "We did it," the old Sarati said. "We actually did it." Above them, the sky was clearing for the first time in weeks. Funerals on the Sarati homeworld lasted 3 days. The survivors gathered in the ruins of their capital city to honor the dead. There were so many names to read, so many lives lost. Over 60% of their entire species was gone, vanished into the darkness of the invasion. Parents, children, friends, lovers, all reduced to memories and grief, but they were not extinct. That was what mattered. Captain Holt stood at the back of the ceremony with his crew. The humans had been invited to attend, a gesture that carried enormous weight in Sarati culture. Outsiders were rarely allowed at such sacred events. But these outsiders had earned their place. Ambassador Kellen gave the opening address. Her voice carried across the crowd, strong and clear despite the tears running down her face. "We asked the galaxy for help," she said. "The galaxy said no. We asked them for mercy. They offered only abandonment." She paused, looking toward the human delegation. Then strangers came, beings we had never met from a world we barely knew existed. They ignored our warnings. They fought our battles. They bled on our soil. Her voice cracked. They saved us when we had stopped believing we could be saved. The ceremony continued for hours. Names were read. Songs were sung. Stories were told of those who had fallen. When it ended, Elder Tovin approached Holt with something in his hands that it was a crystal shard, pale blue and glowing faintly from within. Tovin held it like the most precious thing in the world. "This is the Sarati mark of eternal gratitude," he explained. "It has been given only 3 times in our history, never to anyone outside our species." He pressed the crystal into Holt's hands. "Until now." Holt looked at the gift, then back at the elderly Sarati. "We did not come here expecting rewards. We know. That is why you deserve this." Tovin smiled, the expression tired but genuine. "You came because we needed help. That is all. That is everything." Later, on the ship, Dr. Singh was preparing to leave for her shuttle when someone grabbed her hand. She looked down to find Sarah staring up at her with wide, frightened eyes. "You are leaving," the girl said. It was not a question. Singh knelt down to meet her gaze. "I have to. There are other people who need help. Other places where suffering happens. Will you come back?" Singh pulled the girl into a hug. She could feel Sarah trembling against her chest. This child had lost everything. Her family, her home, her entire world as she knew it. The only stable thing in her life for weeks had been the strange humans who refused to give up. "I will come back," Singh promised. "As often as I can. And when you are older, maybe you can come visit us instead. Would you like that?" Sarah nodded against her shoulder. She did not let go for a very long time. The Galactic Council sent their official response 3 days later. It was carefully worded and filled with diplomatic language, but the meaning was clear. They were unhappy that humanity had violated the quarantine. They were concerned about the precedent this set. They strongly advised against similar actions in the future. Holt read the message in his quarters. He did not bother sending a reply. The Resolute Dawn prepared for departure. The other human ships had already left, carrying supplies and promises to return with more. The Sarati homeworld was still broken, still scarred, but it was alive. Reconstruction had already begun. Kellen came aboard for one final conversation. She found Holt in the observation deck, watching her world turn slowly beneath them. "Captain," she said, "I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." She stood beside him, her 4 eyes fixed on the planet below. "When I sent my warning, I told you that mercy was pointless. I begged you to stay away. Why did you ignore me? What made you come when everyone else listened?" Holt was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to face her. "You asked us for mercy," he said, "but you were not asking for yourselves. You had given up. You wanted us to look away while your people died. That is not mercy. That is surrender. Then what was all of this? What do you call what you did here?" Holt looked back at the planet. The cities were dark, but small lights were beginning to appear. Campfires. Reconstruction crews. Signs of life returning. "Mercy was never the plan," he said quietly. "Mercy is for victims. For survivors. For the innocent who need gentle hands." His expression hardened. "The things that hurt your people did not deserve mercy. They deserved to be destroyed. So we destroyed them. Kellen stared at him. You came to deny mercy to the monsters. Yes. Holt met her gaze directly. When someone asks you to let them die, you fight harder to save them. When something hurts the innocent, you fight until that something no longer exists. That is what humans do. That is who we are. The resolute Dawn broke orbit an hour later. Behind them, the Serati began the long process of healing. It would take years, decades, perhaps longer. But they would survive. They would rebuild. They would remember. Across the galaxy, other species watched and took note. Humanity had come when no one else would. They had fought without being asked. They had bled for strangers and asked for nothing in return. The galaxy had tried to write the Serati's ending. Humanity had torn up the page and written something new. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, other abandoned worlds waited. Other forgotten peoples prayed for help that would never come. They did not know it yet, but help was already on its way. Humanity remembered every species that had been left to die. Every world that had been written off as acceptable losses. They remembered, and they were coming.